Sir, Uday sir, hello.
Good evening, Kiran Garu.
Sir, good evening, sir. How are you?
Oh, nice to connect with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, we'll start exactly at 6 p.m., sir.
Alagindi.
Okay, sir. I have received your email, sir, regarding the slides. I have backed up it. Okay, sir.
Yeah, in case there is some problem with
Okay.
Zoom and all, so we are ready.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right, sir. See you. We'll get into the call soon.
Okay, sir.
Durga. రేపు దుర్గా రావట్లేదు కదా దస్తగిరి రాలేదుగా
అంటే మాకు ఎర్రర్ టీమ్స్ లో సాల్వ్ చేసిన సార్ అంటే
తను వచ్చేటైతే రేపు రండి అయితే కమ్ మండే
Sir, shall we start?
I'm ready.
Yes, sir. Good evening, all of you. This is Dr. K. Kiran Kumar, Vice Principal and Head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. On behalf of Chalapati Institute of Engineering and Technology, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, I welcome all of you for the webinar on digital transformation. There are a total of 400 plus participants registered for this FDP, for this webinar from 21 states in India. I thank all the participants who have registered for this webinar. Coming to the college, Chalapati Institute of Engineering and Technology was established in the year 2007 under the leadership of Sri Y.V. Anjal Garu, former MLA in AP Legislative Assembly. The college was located in the capital region of AP, Amaravati in the Guntur city. Ours is an autonomous college under Acharya Nagarjuna University, accredited by NBA, NAC with A grade and UGC 2F. We offer both UG and PG courses in the college. UG branches include computer science and engineering with artificial intelligence and machine learning, with data science, with cyber security, ECE, EEE, and civil branches. And PG branches include CSE and VLSI and embedded systems design. Coming to the department of CSE, this is a very active department in the college. We have conducted more than 50 events in the pandemic period, which includes FDPs, workshops, webinars, HTTPs, seminars, etc. Till now, more than 25,000 participants got benefited from the events which we have conducted from the May 2020. Now, let me give a brief introduction of today's resource person, Sri Uday Chavagaru from Tejoma Technologies. Uday has been working in high-tech since 1999, including positions at Nokia, Microsoft, and IBM before founding Tejoma, a service provider helping clients transform into the future. He is based in Hyderabad. Sir. Thank you so much for accepting our request and coming as a resource person for this webinar. Over to you, sir.
It is my pleasure, sir. Good evening, all of you. Thank you, Dr. Kiran and Subbarao Garu, for giving me this opportunity to, present something. And when Subbarao Garu asked me to present something to the students, and I looked at your college website and most of what Dr. Kiran just spoke about, it seems like you're already doing a lot of catching up with what is happening in the high tech in the industry. And kudos to you. I think we don't have a choice now but to stay ahead if you want to. Just a second. Yeah, the only way we can succeed is to be, alongside your competition or ahead of them. Otherwise, you will fall behind. And when I was thinking about what would be good to present, it is sort of an interesting opportunity for me, and it's a bit of a coincidence because I'm right now working as a resource person for an online program that Stanford University is developing on digital transformation. Of course, this is for business executives, and I thought, why not talk about it with students as well? So it will. I was hoping that it can prepare the students or, give them some leads into what to look into the future and probably start reading up, learning up about these things so they're ahead of the curve. Yeah. So when we talk about digital transformation, I think this is something that's already been happening for the past 4 or 5 years in earnest. But every now and then you have what is called an inflection point. An inflection point is something at which everybody suddenly takes a turn. Everybody is rather forced to take a turn. And that inflection point in our lives was COVID-19. It simply changed how people wanted to interact with each other, how people wanted to transact, how people wanted to engage in business. So, and that is what now most analysts and thinkers are calling the next normal. So from, a couple of years later, we will start hearing this more often. They will start talking about what used to happen before COVID and how it is after COVID, much like what you had before Christ and Anno Domini, which is after the birth of Christ. So that is the kind of transformational impact that COVID had on our lives. Just reflect back on this. See how you have been trying to get used to learning and how you've tried to, make yourself very productive while you're still at home. Till a couple of years ago, staying at home meant, having your personal time. You could meet with friends, you could watch TV, or try out your own hobbies or engage with your parents. But now, as students, a majority of your home time is college time. And we're talking about the amount of time you're spending at home has increased multifold, and people are already talking about what kind of mental health impact that staying at home for that long for young people can have. So how do we change this? One prominent feature in our lives that everybody, Kiran Garu, someone's raised their hand, so I'm open to allowing them to take questions along the way, but I will let you guide the session. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, someone was looking to ask a question. I think they raised their hand.
Again, they have down, sir.
Okay. No, but you tell me, I mean, if anyone has questions along the way, I'm happy to answer. Or do you want questions to wait till the end?
Sir, we'll take the question and answer at the end, sir. That would be better.
I'm flexible either way, but okay, I'll go with your guidance.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So one major change that is very obvious to everybody, in our lifestyle, specifically in the southern part of India, where cinema is a very, very integral part of our, our lives, and that is pretty much the entertainment. Of course, there are people who focus on sports, who focus on socializing, but cinema is somehow very, very integral to everyone. And there was this culture of going to watch a movie in a theater, and in most cases it was a group affair with classmates / friends, family, etc. Over the past 18 months, most of this movie watching is happening at home through the OTT channels. And now the cinema industry is worried, and they are trying to think of ways to get people to go back to the theaters. It's like forcing you to change your habit. Digital transformation is also similar to that. So as part of this session, I will time myself at 6:10 now, and I will go on till around 6:40, a half hour. And what I will try to accomplish during this half hour is to give you a head start into the future for all of you engineering students who aspire to build careers in the high-tech industry. One disadvantage that you have is, compared to people like me who started 20 years ago, you have much more to catch up than we do, or than we did. And that said, the level playing field is that someone who passes out of their engineering fourth year in 2022 March is also competition for someone who's been in the industry for 20 years like me. It's the younger lot who are actually able to, get ahead, come up with innovative ideas, understand how lifestyles are changing, how people will adapt to newer technology, and how people will integrate technology. Think about it. Think about this example. In 2016, we've had the demonetization. Till then, everybody, pretty much everybody, dealt with a lot of cash. There is an estimate that across the country today, compared to October 2016, the amount of cash that people deal with has come down by 80%. Even farmers in our country use apps like PhonePe and Paytm. Yeah. So how, as young people who are learning technology, how do you plan to impact this society? How do you plan to impact large businesses, and how they will use this technology to be more successful, more competitive in a future that is increasingly looking more and more digital? That's going to depend more and more on technology. Yeah. And one of the things that I mentioned here is to have a 360-degree view of technology that is part of the next generation architecture. I'm not going to provide any large images or architecture diagrams, but I'm going to, at a very high level, discuss some interesting aspects of that. Okay. So I wanted to start with this story. This is not actually a story, but this is a fact. This is not an interactive session, so it's not fair for me to ask how many of you know what this picture is all about. This is a ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal in March this year. Just a second. Yeah. Yeah. So the ship got stuck. It was not such a big deal for people like us sitting at home, and it's just another piece of news. But the ship, one ship getting stuck somewhere in the middle of Egypt, had caused a loss of $9.5 billion during that 1 week period. That estimate adds up to around $400 million per hour was lost because the ship got stuck there. Any such global event can have what is called a ripple effect. The number of ships that were stuck on either side that couldn't move for more than a week. A simple answer to the transformative change that this incident caused. It increased the crude oil rate by $2 a barrel within a week. So if there is someone who's very good with math and they want to understand how much oil is consumed every day and how much impact that had on the on the global oil prices and to several economies. But on the technology front, what did this do? It brought a big change in how companies are now looking at what are called supply chain solutions. If goods are stuck, if goods are late by a week, how do we deal with our customers? How do we deal with customer demand? How are customers going to react if what we are supposed to give to them is delayed by a week? These are all business questions which technology is solving today. Yeah. So I'm just trying to lead you into 4 or 5 concepts about which you've probably heard and you're probably learning quite a bit. But digital transformation, leads from what is very, very critical in the technology, in the new generation architectures that we are now trying to propose, which we're trying to build now, which are all service driven. It all starts with integrating the several systems that you have within your organization. And that integration has to happen across all kinds of technologies that you use. So cloud provides, this ability to make a business very, very agile, allows people to access business information or customer information from anywhere. Infrastructure is no more physical and no more location dependent. You can access information from anywhere because cloud just makes information accessible to anyone from anywhere. And imagine before COVID, if cloud was not available, remote work would not have been possible. Yeah, people would still have to, there were technologies like VPN and, remote access servers, etc. But the ability to work from home from remote locations wouldn't have been as productive or as, ubiquitous, as easy as it actually was. Very few businesses were impacted, from a work point of view, but because of COVID. Yes, consumption has come down, but instead of going to the shops have started coming to your homes, right? And cloud computing as part of the IT infrastructures enabled that transformation. And APIs, all you young guys, if you know how to write your APIs well, if you understand APIs before you leave your college, I guarantee you, nobody will be without a job. This whole world is all about, developing APIs and deploying them, developing, services using APIs, integrating multiple APIs, consuming some existing APIs, integrating them with databases. Yeah. When you talk about hybrid, we'll come to that slide later on, but yeah, you don't have to learn coding. And mark my words carefully, I know your professors won't like this. You don't have to learn coding if you learn how to consume APIs and if you learn how to integrate services with databases. All right. So if you have any questions around this, please write them down and I'll be happy to answer at the end. AI and machine learning is another thing that is, more and more pervasive. The estimate is that by end of 2022, about 50% of Fortune 500 businesses will have about 50% of their, services which will have some amount of AI built into them. All right, we'll look into machine learning and AI examples when we talk about automating and democratizing AI. That's what I'm trying to bring to your attention. Okay, RPA is also a stage 1, stage 2 AI in some ways, but that is something that is already fairly available to a lot of us. Without your knowing, you're probably using a lot of robotic process automation. We'll talk about that too. Mobile platforms is something that most of you are very, very familiar with. I use the example of OTT because I know a majority of you know how to share your Netflix accounts across multiple mobile phones. But even otherwise, the moment any technology has reached the mobile, it's brought technology into everyone's hands. The earlier example that I used, that even farmers are able to perform digital transactions. So I think that's remarkable that we've managed to get technology that far in a country like India. And then there are several emerging technologies like blockchain, which will also become fairly mainstream in the next couple of years. Augmented reality is already there. Virtual reality is something that's been around for 15 to 20 years, but now we're seeing real applications. IoT has been around for a while because I recall I first worked on a semi-IoT project in what was then called radio frequency identification. It's called RFID. I'd first worked on that on a project on RFID for Gillette in 2004. So we are now 17 years into this technology and it's very, very mature. We are at a stage where IoT is going to actually show a lot of benefits as a technology to the society at large. Edge computing can be many things. Yeah, And these are all new ways of taking advantage of the explosion of digital data that, um, that more and more companies are able to generate and manage. So this is a snapshot of the hot technologies in 2022 for the ones who are passing out next March. I would urge you to learn a little about these so you can impress your prospective employers. Not only that, all the companies that are coming to your campuses today are also ramping up their centers of excellence around these technologies. Mobile is, of course, very mature. But there's still a lot of work happening around mobile, improving customer experience on mobile apps, improving mobile, security, ensuring customer data is very secure, etc. IoT is also very popular, especially on the manufacturing side. IoT and robotics are seeing a big increase in spend there. A lot of companies are now beginning to invest in these to offset any deficiencies in skills. So if people can't perform a task, it's easy now to find a robot to do that. Digital twin is a very interesting technology. It is still evolving. I think last year was when it started ranking among hot technologies. It is it's easier for you to understand if you've watched this movie called the Avatar. Avatar is the other term for digital twin that is commonly used within the high-tech industry. So right now, people are developing technologies where for each of you to perform any digital transactions or any digital tasks, you can, have your digital twin perform on your behalf. Okay. Robotics, we've already discussed. Cloud, of course, is very, very ahead in the maturity curve. But cloud is also evolving. We're talking about private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, and multi-cloud. And how do you bring all of this together? When you look at a large company, a company that would require all of these, and then they need engineers to take care of them, to make sure all these cloud instances are talking to each other and things like that. AML, we will touch base more, and that's a very, very fast growing opportunity. Then you have augmented reality, which is yet to see its full potential. It's been around for a while, but still people are trying to figure out applications around AR. Additive manufacturing has to do with 3D printing. This is something that is going to be very, very useful for mechanical engineers. The lot that always keeps complaining that they're losing out to computer engineers. Additive manufacturing and IoT is largely in the mechanical engineering space. So take note of that and start investigating and learning more about these things. So this is a larger canvas. I think I will request your faculty to circulate these slides with all of you, whoever is interested, so you can actually run through all of these to understand what each of these technologies mean. The purpose that I put this out is for you guys to look at each of these, understand a little bit of them, and then figure out your area of interest. You have immense opportunity to identify your own niche and specialize in that. Yeah. So as you could just look at the image and forget about the rest. But this is again one of those triggers that COVID has caused. We were happily managing with 4G, and that's why very few telecom companies were looking to invest in 5G, because the cost of implementing 5G is fairly large. But COVID has suddenly increased our bandwidth needs at home. And that's why 5G is now, I think, already being rolled out. especially on the mobile handsets. Majority of the manufacturers have already launched 5G enabled mobile phones. But the big magic that you will see is you will see several other 5G enabled devices like refrigerators, cars. Yeah. So they will start consuming a lot of data, and they will start responding to, remote notifications and remote communication. Yeah. So, and 5G, the reason why I'm talking about this, especially for electronic students who have interest in telecom or networks or embedded systems, this is a big opportunity for you. I mean, if you understand networks very well, and if you understand communication networks, then 5G offers a very large opportunity for you folks. So this, of all the slides, this is the one that is most exciting for me. And I had a lot of thought around why we should talk about bad data and the cost it has for business here. Customer data platforms are something that is just about emerging, that's just about hitting the market. And all the large companies that you know of, the Oracles and SAPs and the Microsofts of the world, are just about beginning to, build these CDPs. We've had several, data solutions, like you had CRM solutions, customer relationship manager solutions, which regularly would capture, data on customers, and then, engage with customers, decide what customers want, do your sales on top of CRM data, or do analytics on, at the end of the year, how many customers purchased one product and why customers did not buy another product, and things like that. But customer data platforms is going to bring in a very, very comprehensive data solution, which will do multiple things like collecting data from different sources, organizing it, tagging it. Tagging it is actually profiling it, and then making it usable for anyone who needs it. So if I have a customer data platform, I can run it for Chalapati College and capture the student data of all the students who write the entrance exam for engineering, and then identify their abilities with math, their abilities with any other skill that the college wants, and then do the profiling all automatically, and tell the college administration that, look, these are the students that will suit your college best. Similarly, for students who want to go study elsewhere, after they finish their graduation and want to pursue masters, I can use a CDP solution to, identify exactly your profile will fit in which college. So all these solutions are going to be available online, initially for a cost and over a period of time for free. Because acquiring customer data is more or less done for all the people living on the planet. Any new data will keep adding up. But today we are in a situation where there is enough data to manage, to manipulate, and come up with analytics, visualization tools, etc. As you can see, databases evolved a lot. I mean, from the days when we started learning how to use databases in the 80s. In the 2000s, you had cloud and big data. And suddenly when we talk about big data, the size of databases has really grown. And then we've had a different set of tools. And today we're talking about, we've gone past talking about data warehouses, and we're talking about data lakes. imagine the size. Database is the size of a gas cylinder. A data warehouse is the size of your classroom, and a data lake is the size of one of those reservoirs that maybe the Prakasam Barrage. For a comparison, that is how exponentially data size has grown. So this is a very powerful illustration. And as you can see, data can be accumulated from anywhere, processed, re-engineered, profiled, and released to any source. Customer data platforms are being used to encourage people to vote for their respective leaders depending on their loyalties. So for example, if somebody, maybe it's a little sensitive to talk about politics here, but if you, let's take a large sample size of the 300 or 400 students who are right now in this session, or maybe less. But CDP has the ability to quickly identify how many of you would like to watch an action movie and how many of you would like to watch a comedy or a romantic comedy, and then give that information to an OTT platform like Netflix or AHA, and then they will push you those movies that suit your interest to you. Then the chances of you watching the movie is higher. Yeah. So the same thing applies with e-commerce, advertising. What is hybrid cloud? I'm sure most of this is being covered. So in any large business today, they have multiple cloud solutions. So IT infrastructures in large companies are now in a very, very complicated state, where companies who've been around for a long time have really large physical IT assets like databases, servers, several routing boxes, routing servers, huge racks of physical IT assets. And now the new investments that these companies are making, they're all making these investments in the cloud. There are a lot of them are buying private cloud on AWS. Some of them are buying public cloud on AWS. Then if they are already using SAP in their business, they're buying the SAP's cloud solution. Now the challenge is they need intermediate solutions like integration platform as a service. It's called IPaaS. Yeah, to integrate and have the physical implementation of SAP and cloud implementation of SAP, or physical implementation of Oracle database and cloud implementation of SAP to talk to each other. They need an integration platform. Yeah. So hybrid cloud also will require something like an iPaaS, where they can bring a private cloud and a public cloud and then have them all integrated in one place. This is a very interesting space for students who are very keen on getting into system administration, DevOps, application development on the cloud, etc. This is another very challenging trend by itself. Headless technology is already in place, where if you understand how computing systems evolved from mainframes to client server to web servers, and later on to application servers and so on and so forth. Today we are at a stage where the front end and the back end can be completely different. So you will have a back end to which you can have any number of heads. I think this may be the best example to use is Ravanasura. So he has just one torso and several heads. So you have one single backend infrastructure, with which will talk to several databases, but you have multiple front-end interfaces, and all of them, have exclusively built interfaces, because what works for your desktop and laptop may not work for your phone or TV or watch or fridge. See, a lot of devices in your homes are going to be impacted by digital transformation. For example, your lighting, your ceiling fans, your microwaves, your refrigerators, your air conditioners, all of them are going to be digitally enabled once they have, once 5G is in place. Most of them will have new wireless technologies where you can, from your laptop, from your mobile phone, you can talk to any of these devices. That's going to become a reality pretty soon. Now compare, and I provided this illustration to give you a comparison between how headless technology works versus monolithic architectures. Now, this kind of a backend architecture requires you to understand how many different possibilities will exist in the front end and build your backend accordingly. Also, a lot of these front-end components will all become modular, much like your reusable objects. You will start having reusable modules and components which you can just plug and play with different backends. More like your SDKs that you have now for any APIs. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay, I'm nearly there. I think I'll take another 6 minutes, Kiran Garu.
No problem, sir. You can continue.
Sure. So I didn't want to define much about AI because most of you are probably learning several concepts of AI, but AI has reached a stage where it is going to be available to a lot of people. For example, one common example that I like to use, when I use my Tata Sky subscription, the moment I log into my subscription, I have a small help chatbot pop up. There's no human there. It's always a chatbot which is asking you questions. And if there is a ready-made answer to your question, it'll pick the answer from its set of answers from its database and send a reply to you. But if you ask the bot a question that it does not understand, then it will request or route the request to a human being. And after 3 questions, the 4th question, if it's being answered by a human being, you won't know the difference. Both of them seem just like one person. That is democratizing AI. AI being available to people. AI being available to people just like all other services that exist today. We are getting there. In another year's time, you'll start seeing a lot of AI related components built in. Yeah. So if you're using GPay and you make the wrong transaction, you will not have a help desk telling you, but an AI component telling you that you made a wrong transaction. AI is maturing fast. You can see some of these terminologies here. Bing auto suggest. So based on your previous browsing, Bing will automatically suggest what to look at, or what kind of search you would like to perform. All right, and the way you type, the kind of language you use, these search engines will know from which background you come from, you could be in the US, but if you're of Indian origin and you type a string of words in Google, it will figure out that you're probably Indian and give you results that suit you. Much like how Facebook actually crawls and captures all your web search and makes and populates ads relating to your search on your Facebook pages. Yeah, this is going to pervade across several things that you do in e-commerce, in banking, in mobile apps. Even how notifications are going to be issued by mobile apps is going to, they're going to include AI in them. This is my last slide. There's so much more that I wanted to cover, but I wanted to limit to 40 minutes. So among all those things that I touched upon so far, having a little bit of all these different concepts that I introduced makes up for this digital mindset. It is having your perspective towards understanding technology stack, having a good grip on, how powerful integration can be, how essential integration is across different systems, and, leveraging data to the maximum within, your sphere of things, whether you're in a college or whether you're in a business, your organization, doesn't matter. And this understanding that bringing all these elements together to make your organization agile. This is not a time and age where you can take things at your pace. You need to run, and you need to run fairly fast. Luckily for you, young people, you still have a little more time to build that stamina, to learn all these concepts and develop the digital mindset even before you are ready for the markets. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I had. Kiran Garu, you can moderate questions or comments.
So all the participants, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box or you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you and you can ask your question. Those who have joined in YouTube also, you can post the question in the chat box.
I saw several hands raising. I hope that's not when people were yawning and stretching themselves.
So all the participants, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can type in the chat box.
So let me make an offer to you all participants. You can also ask questions not related to, okay, there's a question here. Are data lakes need new techniques for access? The simplest access solution for data lakes now is the cloud, sir. So whatever cloud enables, but yes, what is standardizing now is 2-factor or 3-factor authentication. Those I think will be fairly standard for the next few years in terms of how you access and how access is authorized. So I was going to make an offer to all you students. You can even ask questions unrelated to this presentation, but questions relating to your career and stuff like that.
Sir, one question is there in the YouTube, sir.
Yeah, please.
Please tell me job opportunities regarding digital transformation.
So, yeah, I think I will take a minute or so to answer that. So within digital transformation, again, you could at a high level look at 4 different areas of opportunity. One is on the networking side, where we are talking about ensuring large amounts of bandwidth is made available The other one is in terms of AI, where you develop applications for businesses to change the way they're doing business today. The third one is, in cybersecurity, you will have tremendous amount of opportunity. Security becomes more and more critical. And automation in general is also very, very, and when I talk about automation, we're talking about robotics, we're talking about IoT, we're talking about automation using AI. So there are a lot of opportunities. And in terms of pure programming technologies that you need to learn, most of the existing programming frameworks are enabling some of these things. Predominantly Python is seeing a lot of traction, a lot of new applications in AI are being built using Python. Then there is a new programming language. It's not quite new, but something that is evolving. It's called Julia. I'm going to type it out in the chat box for everybody's benefit. But then there are also several other new programming frameworks coming up. The nice thing about these, almost all of them are open source. So you're free to learn them by yourself. Also, it's a very smart thing for you to learn several open source technology components that the Apache Foundation offers. Apache offers several open source software components, and most of them are going to be, used by companies, at least for the foreseeable future. For example, Apache Spark is now the default big data solution that by far is the most consumed by organizations across the world. Okay, how to provide security public cloud. Maybe I will do another session on that, but security is a very large subject by itself. And yeah, there are several technologies that are already in place. You can look at this company called Zscaler, which is an Indian-owned company that's extremely successful in providing cloud security solutions. And you can look at some of their solutions to understand how security is provided to public cloud. Additionally, most of these existing platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud are also innovating on cybersecurity quite a bit. I'm hoping this question on scope of robotics is coming from a mechanical engineer. If you are a computer science engineer, I'm not going to answer that question. Lex Kut, do you want to respond to that? So are you a mechanical engineering student or a computer science student? Anyway, robotics offers enough for both kind of engineering students. There is a lot of engineering understanding that you need to make sure any mechanical components perform to any of the embedded software that is built into these robots. So it is important for you to understand embedded software, interfaces, and how the mechanics of a robot work. So I'll give you an interesting snippet on this. About 40% of automotive assembly currently happens using robotics. Guess what? The error percentage when robots perform, when compared to when humans perform, robots perform at 0 errors. All right, I'll have to scroll back a little bit. Priyadarshini had a question. What's the difference between AI? What is DS? Data science. Okay. Machine learning and deep learning. So artificial intelligence is probably the umbrella subject, Priyadarshini. Data science is a very small piece where you understand how to visualize data, how you use statistical methods and models to come up with good quality visualizations that can help decision making. Data science by and large focuses on that. Machine learning is actually a concept within AI where you're training your computer or your application or a robot or an appliance to perform in a certain way. Machine learning is used to ensure that that particular machine learns and gains in experience and starts behaving like a human being. Okay, deep learning is largely a totally different topic, really. And deep learning is trying to simulate how a human mind works by developing different applications. You might want to study this closely. Google has a division called DeepMind. This is a company that was incubated by the Cambridge University in the UK that Google acquired some time ago, and they are trying to simulate the human brain. So deep learning is largely about concepts around that. Yeah. What is the importance of English for emerging CS students? Okay. The better your English, the higher your offer in placements. Go figure out. If you want a higher package in your placements, learn better English. .5G technology challenges. So every time every generation of telecom or wireless technology and every evolution of wireless technology requires a lot of new equipment to be brought into place. And this equipment requires or brings with it newer and more powerful capabilities. Like if 4G was able to handle 1 million, call requests per minute, 5G can do about 10 to 20 million. So it requires understanding wireless networks very well, and it requires understanding several protocols like border gateway protocol, which is by far the most prominent one right now. It's in short, you can search for BGP, border gateway protocol. Also in 5G, security is a big issue. Who is accessing the network? Who's intercepting your calls? Who's snooping on your calls? All these are very, very interesting challenges for which we will need solutions in the future. Now then, there is also this opportunity for deploying the 5G equipment, on the field. But I'm hoping engineers won't waste time doing that.
Participants, do you have any more questions? You can please type in the chat box, or you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you. Feedback come attendance link is posted in the chat box. You can check it over there. Subbarao garu, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I have unmuted, sir.
Okay.
Basically, Uday, I want to ask you a general question.
Sure.
Basically, you see, your works for some time in top-notch companies. Then you have decided to keep your own firm.
Sure.
What actually went through your mind when you were planning to keep your own firm? Because there are many students who want to keep their own firm, but
Okay.
they are a bit confused.
Okay. So I'll give a long answer to this, Subbarao Garu. So maybe I should reveal this here. I am not an engineer by education. Um, I'm actually a student of English language. Um, but then I ended up in technology, and I think I have been very lucky with the opportunities that I got. And Subbarao Garu earlier asked this question about importance of English. It's my communication skills that got me where I went, where I got so far. You know, and today in Tejoma, we employ students from IITs and NIT. And some of these students come and ask me, sir, you're not even an engineer and you're hiring us. So technology is a level playing field. We must just know how to use it. But so there is a big generational difference from how the 80s generation looked at careers and how 90s generation looked at careers and how the millennials, people who were born after 1990, look at careers. So like some elder gentleman was telling me, our parents were looking for a job to run a home, and we were looking for a career to own a home and give a comfortable life to our children, our family. But this generation, they have it all. Like when I have two daughters who are in their teens, and when my daughter asked me for a smartphone, she's in her 12th class. I said, look, I didn't have a phone till I started earning my own salary. And then she said, look, your dad was a teacher, so he couldn't afford. But my dad is an IT professional, he can afford. So the most important thing that I'm seeing with millennials is they don't have that fear of failure that people from older generations had. We were very afraid to start something and fail because we had a lot of social fear of failing. But that's the beauty of millennials. They know how to fall down, get up and run. So, and if a lot of you youngsters are looking to start your own firm, I think it's a great move. Um, but I would like to caution: do not do that without having all the knowledge by yourself. If you have the full knowledge of what it takes to succeed, then get in. And then you fail, no one's going to complain that you failed. In fact, you learn more through failure than through successes. Yeah. So yeah, if you're in your 20s, if you want to try, you're free to try. And if you don't succeed, you always can go back to a job. Because by the time you're 26, 27, and you have already failed in something, I think a lot of companies will appreciate that, and they will appreciate the experience that your failure has brought you.
If you have any more questions, you can please ask. Thank you, sir. The session was wonderful. There was a good feedback in the YouTube as well as in the Zoom also.
Okay, sir.
So I should especially thank you as well as Subbarao Garu, both of you for making this webinar possible. Thank you so much, sir.
For me, Subbarao Garu only had to propose. He's my senior and a respected senior for me. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Dr. Kiran.
Thank you, sir.
I would have wished to do this in person and interact with more students, but maybe at some stage in the future, we will attempt that.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Subbarao Garu, you want to add any more?
Thank you, Uday, for sparing your time, because you have a deadline on Monday, and I'm sure that should be working at the back of your head. And in spite of all that busy schedule, you spared 1 hour and given us your time. And I thought I heard the whole talk. I thought it was excellent. I will again listen to this talk in the future. Thank you very much, Uday. I'll contact you later.
Sure, sir.
Thank
Good
you,
luck
sir.
to
Thank you
all.
so much.
Good luck to you all, students. I hope this will be useful to you. Take care and you have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Participants, if any one of you have not filled the feedback form, please fill it fast. It is posted in the chat box. Recordings as well as the PPT will be shared in the groups. Thank you.